Shalom, friends of Israel. I am Lizerbram, National President of Jewish National Fund USA. Thank you for joining us on our daily briefing from Israel. This is day 17 of the war in Israel. We thank you for being with us since the Sunday after that very first tragic day, October 7. We will start today with an expert in the field of counterterrorism. Professor Ganor serves as the founding president of the International Academic Counterterrorism Community, an international association of academic institutions, experts, and researchers in fields related to the study of terrorism and counterterrorism. He is also the president of Reichman University in Herzliya, Israel. Prior to being president, he was the dean of the Ronald S. Lauder School of Government, Diplomacy and Strategy at Reichman University. We're fortunate to have you with us today, Boaz, and I will turn it over to you.
Thank you, Saul. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you inviting me to this gathering of the JNF. For the regulation, let's just say that if there would be a siren, hopefully it won't, I would try to take you with me to the shelter and keep on talking to you, but if it won't work, just bear with me and I'll be back. As you've mentioned, my claim to claim is for being a counterterrorism expert. That's what I did in the last 40 years, and in the last 28 years, I was the founder and the executive director of the ICT, the International Policy Institute for Counterterrorism at the Reichman University. And just not long ago, a few weeks ago, I was appointed as the president of the university, and I have to admit that although, and I'll explain why, although I was not surprised from the war that was inflicted on us, I was surprised that it happened within 3 weeks after I was appointed as the president. They didn't give me even 100 days of being prepared in my new job. Why wasn't I surprised? At the ICT, the Institute for Counterterrorism, for the last 3 years, we have conducted maybe the biggest project ever with 100 experts. When I say experts, I'm talking about former generals of the IDF. I'm talking about former heads of Mossad, military intelligence, Shabak, and so on and so forth. And we asked them one question. What is going to be and what will be in the next multi-front war if and when Israel will have to deal with it? But not only to build a scenario, but also to understand the challenges that Israel would face, and taking from there, what are our recommendations, how to contend with it. So as said, we had 7 projects within the overall program that we've conducted there, and we worked for 3 years, and the scenario that we have built is very, very close. Actually, it's exactly the scenario that happened. I have to admit that our scenario believed that the war will start in the north and would then move to the south. It happens in a different way. It started in the south, in Gaza, and who knows if it would also be inflicted in the north. When I say multi-front war, I refer to mainly 5 fronts. The main front is the northern front with Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the most dangerous enemy of Israel in the Middle East. I'll talk about it in a moment. The second front is Gaza with Hamas and Palestinian Islamic Jihad. The third front is what we call Judea and Samaria, the West Bank front, which also might impose many challenges to Israel during the war. The fourth front is the internal front, i.e. extremists from within the Israeli Arab population, as we saw them provoking against Israel and starting riots not long ago in previous rounds in Gaza. And we analyzed all of that. We came to the conclusion that the challenge would be unparalleled to any previous challenge that we have faced. And we came with concrete recommendation how to prepare the home front for that challenge, how to prepare the plans to win the war, how to prepare plans to contend with cyber attacks, and many, many others. One of the main recommendations that we had was to build local, independent in a way, or I would say under the municipal authority, emergency units built on neighborhood volunteers, because we have argued that the number of rockets that will be sent to Israel, if all of those frontiers will erupt, would be in the amount that the national bodies, such as Home Front Command, the Israeli police, and so on and so forth, will not be able even to get to all the areas of destruction that will come out of that. And our conclusion was that there is a need to build the pyramid bottom up and not top down in this regard. We had a concrete recommendation of how to prepare the security of the border villages, kibbutzes, towns, in a way that they can stand before the army would come for their help. And just we saw 2 weeks ago how this didn't happen. And when Hamas terrorists marched into Israel, it took a lot of time to the IDF to come and save the day and save whoever they could. Now, let me say as an opening statement that Israel is at war, but not with Hamas. Israel is at war with Iran. Now, Iran is a monster, is the head of the monster that holds two hands. One hand is a weaker hand, and this is the Palestinian Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad army, which is an arm of the Iranian monster. That's the weaker arm. The stronger arm is Hezbollah. Hezbollah, the Shiite Lebanese army that was built by Iran. In both cases, we are talking about huge capabilities that all of them have been built by Iran. They sponsor that with millions, hundreds of millions of dollars a year. They built an enormous rockets capabilities. In the south, we are talking about few tens of thousands. In Lebanon, we are talking about 150,000 rockets, which are aimed as we speak toward Israel. They built a ground army, boots on the ground type of army. We saw it, the Nakba in Gaza, but in the north, it's called Radwan forces, and Radwan forces are the number is more than triple than the number of Hamas, and much better trained. They participated alongside Assad regime and Iran and Russia in the fights against ISIS and other organizations in Syria for many years. They know what they are doing, and all of that is a construction of Iran that is aimed on a certain situation. Actually, it's aimed for two purposes. The main purpose that Iran built Hezbollah for is to deter Israel from attacking Iran, from attacking the Iranian nuclear facilities. That's the main reason. But recently, Iran seems to have a different policy. We should ask ourselves, okay, if we're talking about a war with Iran, with a proxy of Iran that started 2 weeks ago, why then? Why did it happen 2 weeks ago? And the answer is that Iran saw in a very bad eye, actually they were terrified from what seems to be a normalization between Israel and Saudi Arabia that was discussed with the brokery of United States. Israel and Saudi Arabia were that close to sign a peace agreement with normalization, which is not very common. And this would have been led to other Muslim countries, Arab countries, to join this normalization. That's problematic enough in the eyes of Iran, but it's much more problematic than that, because it was clear that this normalization would be the baseline for an alliance, a military alliance between those states with the hegemony and the umbrella, nuclear umbrella of United States, that would enemy, and this is Iran. And that's exactly what Iran wanted to prevent by conducting this specific attack against Israel. We are still puzzled if this is the only plan that they have, or do they still have a second stage plan, which is involving Hezbollah and creating a bigger regional war, maybe even a world war, if United States will intervene and Russia would intervene, and so on and so forth. Israel was suffering from a severe slap in the face from the weak arm of Iran, humiliating slap in the face. This was an outcome of a combination of quite a few misconceptions that the Israelis had. It's amazing how those misconceptions remind experts the exact misconceptions that we had 50 years earlier in Yom Kippur War. But it's even worse than that. We had an intelligence misconception. The first intelligence misconception is that we taught ourselves, or we told ourselves, that they are not interested in attacking us. Hamas is not interested in attacking Israel because they are preoccupied with welfare and they want to send more workers to Israel and get money from Qatar and so on and so forth. And they practically let us fall asleep in this regard. We also had a misconception telling ourselves that we have a physical facility, a physical capability that will prevent them even if they want to get into Israel. If you remember Bar-Lev line in Yom Kippur War, the same thing. We believe that the Egyptians will not be able, even if they would want to cross Suez Canal, they would not be able to take over the bunkers that we've built alongside the canal. Same thing with the fence, very sophisticated fence that we have built, very effective in prevention of smuggling terrorists to Israel through tunnels. But somebody forgot the scenario that really happened, that they can blow it away in many places simultaneously and actually run into Israel with motorcycles, with four-wheel vehicles. And when you have quite a few villages and kibbutzes and towns in the distance of hundreds of meters, not hundreds of miles, between the town and the border, if you're not prepared to that, if you're being taken by surprise, the outcome is quite clear. It was definitely clear to us in this regard. I think that the level of hatred that we saw, the level of inhuman behavior, this Nazi savages activity, that I would not spell it out, because I'm sure you have been exposed to at least some of it. To the Israelis, I recommend not to be exposed to that, because now we need resilience. And I would recommend the Israelis not to watch those videos until the war is ended. You can understand that was a huge atrocity. Some people are talking about the Holocaust. I don't think it's a Holocaust, but it's definitely something that we've never experienced before. I have to admit that once again, it was proven, in my view, that the Palestinians, although they deceived us and managed to do what they wanted to do, they shot on their leg or even in their heart. And they fell into the same mistake that they've done so many times over and over again, by being engaged in promoting the interests of Arab states. In the past, it used to be Egypt, and it used to be Syria, and it used to be Libya, and so on and so forth. Now it's Iran. and Iran is ready to fight until the last drop of blood of any Palestinians, and maybe in the future, every drop of blood of any Lebanese, if Hezbollah will intervene. The Palestinians were happily joining this concept. They, many of them, most of them died during the operation. We are talking about thousands of them that died in the operation. And many of them are dying as we speak when we are trying to eliminate Hamas military and civil capabilities in Gaza. So they are paying an enormous price, but they are paying even a bigger price than that, because they didn't just slaughter Israelis. They also slaughtered, if you ask me, the chances for generation ahead of peace process with them. Because you have to understand, and you are talking to a person who believed, always believed in two-state solution. You have to understand that whenever we would have Palestinian leadership that will be ready to promote peace, we don't have it yet, but if and when we will have that, Israel in any case will need to take risks, military risk, because any type of peace will be engaged in taking risks. That's the nature of the situation. I don't see Israelis, right-wingers or left-wingers, taking any risks anymore in the coming years. So the chances for a peace process are actually null, in my view today. And a few words, and I will conclude with that, few words about future scenarios. We are now in a very weird situation in which we are conducting airstrikes. We drafted many, some are saying 350,000 soldiers. Many of them are in the southern border, some of them are in the northern border. And we are prepared, locked and barrel, to occupy territories of Gaza, to have ground operation, not for the sake of conquering. I don't think that there are many Israelis who are interested in conquering Gaza again, but in order to eliminate Hezbollah. It's quite clear that you cannot eliminate Hezbollah, and that's the goal that the government have set to the IDF. You cannot eliminate Hamas with only airstrikes. If you're being called a liberal democracy, you can have achievements. We are having achievements, but when you have an enemy which intentionally is embedded within the civilian society, when this enemy, we have the saying that the Israelis are suffering from the missiles of Hamas, and Hamas is using its own civilians in order to protect their missiles. When you have human shields being taken by Hamas, the number of casualties, if you want to eradicate Hezbollah just with airstrikes, it's impossible to do that unless you're being called Russia or Iran or Syria. So the only option is with ground operation. The first scenario option of the next stage, first of all, I tend to believe that the relative quiet that we have in the last 24 hours, 48 hours, is an outcome of American effort to bring about a deal, a small deal, in which some of the civilians will be freed as a humanitarian so-called gesture coming from Hamas, in return of humanitarian gesture from Israel that would let humanitarian aid in large numbers to get into Gaza. I believe there is a fair chance that this would happen. Some would say, but why should they do that? It's clear to them that the day after this deal will be conducted, Israel will attack them. Yes, they do, but it gives them three benefits. The first benefit is that they would so-called correct some of the savage image that they have spread all over the world, and show how so-called human they are by freeing babies and kids and women mostly, by the way, with international citizenship and not just Israeli or double citizenship altogether. Second, it would give some relief to their own community in Gaza, and that they take this not very seriously, but they take it by consideration as well. And third, the most important, even if they will free 50 or 60 or 70 civilians, they would still have about 130 others or more, and that's more than enough for them to negotiate for whatever they want afterwards. So that's the first stage that might happen in the coming few hours, a day or two. But after that, there are three possible scenarios. The first scenario is that Israel would keep on and intensifying the airstrikes and joined with very strict and very pinpointed ground operation. Some of them will be rescue operations, some of them would be targeted killings operation on the ground, and so on and so forth. The second option is that Israel would have a large ground operation marching into part of Gaza, could be the northern part of Gaza, in which Israel already threatened that that's what Israel is planning to do, could be another part of Gaza. The third option, by the way, if you would ask my recommendation, I would choose the third option, but the chances, it seems to me, quite slim right now, is that Israel will hold part of the forces surrounding Gaza, not conducting ground operation, but preferring to attack and eradicate as much as possible Hezbollah. Hezbollah is the biggest enemy. In my view, you remember this concept of the Iranian monster with two arms, the weaker arm, Hamas, the stronger arm, Iran. We got the slap from the weaker arm from Hamas, and now we want to cut this arm. I can understand why. But then it might be that the stronger arm will intervene. Hezbollah will intervene. That would be very difficult. We will win this war, but the number of casualties and destruction in Israel will be unparalleled. And the other thing, even if we would succeed to cut the Hamas arm of the Iranian monster, it would not really deter Hezbollah, because Hezbollah would say, okay, this is Hamas. We are much, much stronger than Hamas. But if we do the opposite, and if we eradicate the arm of Hezbollah, that would definitely have an impact on the overall geostrategical position of Israel, and will deter Hamas for many years afterwards. That's the situation that we are facing now. It's one of the most difficult and challenging situation Israel have ever challenged. Some people are saying this is an existential threat. Yes, if we would lose the war, it will be an existential threat. I think that the chances that Israel would lose the war are very, very, very small. That's why I do not refer to that as an existential war, but this is an unparalleled strategic challenge that Israel is facing. And I have no doubt that we would win the war. The only problem is what the price that we are still going to pay if each one of those three scenarios would come to place. Thank you.
So, Boaz, thank you so much for your time. Our other speakers are waiting. However, we have several questions. I'm only going to bring one up, and that is, can a peace agreement with Saudi Arabia still move forward?
In my view, the answer is yes. We have a very interesting, in a way, I wouldn't use the term moderate, but pragmatic leader in Saudi Arabia. I'm talking about MBS. And he understands, that Iran is the biggest enemy of Saudi Arabia from comparing to any other enemy. Iran is a Shiite, radical Islamist entity. Saudi Arabia is being regarded as the biggest Sunni entity, and we know the rivalry, the centuries years old rivalry between the Shiite and the Sunnis. When Saudi Arabia is looking around, they are saying to themselves that they are disappointed from United States, because United States under Obama and under Trump didn't give them the backup or didn't give others the backup, other allies that they had, that they expected. Obama actually pushed or kicked in the bottom of Mubarak in Egypt during the Arab Spring, when Saudi Arabia was attacked by Iran and the Houthis in Yemen, severely, destroying about 50% of their oil production. And Trump was saying, we are prepared, just give us facts showing that they are ready and we will react. They got the facts, they did nothing. The American, and it's bipartisan in my view, the American concept is some kind of isolationism, and that's very frightening for allies of United States all over the world, and especially Saudi Arabia. When they look around in their neighbors, they see only one strong entity that have the same interests like Saudi Arabia, and this is Israel. That's the secret behind this normalization process and alliance. So it will take time, but it is still possible, in my view, that this normalization will be signed at the end of the day.
Great. Thank you again so much for your time, Boaz. I hope we can call on you again to help keep us informed. I just want to remind all our viewers as well as our speakers that this is live. Things sometimes don't go exactly on time, but we appreciate everybody's participation. And now what we're going to do is switch over and move to Reichman-Eisikovits, the JNF-USA affiliate Green Horizons. Ido serves as Vice President of Fundraising, and he works to develop leadership skills of thousands of Israeli youths, educating them about our country's rich history and Zionist values. Ido will speak with us today about Green Horizons' critical work in Israel during this war. Ido, it's good to see you. We miss seeing you in person, but we're glad you're with us today. So please give us some insight.
Thank you, Saul. Most of the time, many of you know me, and most of the time with a big smile on my face, and love to talk about many things like football and developing leadership. But this is difficult times in Israel, and I will start kind of an update mentioning several people that unfortunately my organization lost in the last 2 weeks. The first one is Hagit Rafaeli Mishkin, a 48 years old mother from Hod HaSharon, that grew up in Green Horizons, was a guide in Green Horizons, and she's a mother today of 3 kids. One of them is a participant in Hod HaSharon. Aner Shapira, 21 years old, alumni from Jerusalem, that jumped on a grenade to save his friends from the unit. Amit Peled, who is 21 years old from Haifa, who served in Egoz and was won the first battle helping Niroz. Captain Roy Chappell from the Nachal Brigade that fell on the first battle around Be'eri. Second, Tomer Shoham from Srigim, that also was in the same battle as Roy Chappell. And the last one that I think most of you heard is 12 years old Noya Dan, was a participant and a JNF-USA recipient of the scholarships in Eshkol. And Noya Dan was not a soldier. She was a 12 years old kid that they're living, just was sleeping at a grandmother in Niroz, and was killed just for that. Our organization is very complicated to go from funeral to funeral with people that we knew for many, many years and people that we just knew for 2 years, like Noa Dan. As the war started, we understood that it's a bigger thing than that anything we faced until now. We understood that as an organization, although we lost 70% of our staff to reserve duty all around Israel. We understood that we need to help where we can. And our specialty is to work with kids and youth. And we understood that everywhere in Israel, the entire Israel is in trauma. And the entire Israel is now under attack. A rocket fell outside of my daughter, where I live, at the center of Israel. Rockets fell in Rehovot. Rockets fell up north. It's an entire country under trauma with what happened in the Gaza envelope and what's happening continuously with this war. And we understood that in order to help, we need to work with our kids that are part of Green Horizons, but also use our tool, which is educating kids through the outdoors, to help them face that trauma. So in few months or years from now, they will not suffer from post-trauma stress disorder. And the US Army, for many, many years, that's their best tool of helping soldiers coming from war, just taking them to the outdoors and let them regain that confidence of being, and help them not fear for going outside, because now that's what's happening here in Israel. All of our guides that are not called to the army, and all of our gap year guides and everyone are spread around Israel from north to south, and guiding in places that are for the evacuees, and I'll touch it in a few moments, and with kids, of regular kids from the neighborhood. And Gary, if you can show the slides, I gathered several pictures from the activities that we are doing. It's just giving them to be a little bit kids and taking it to outside. What you see is pictures from up north, from Bet Shean, where lots of the evacuees, also from Sderot and Ofakim, were sent there, and kids from the neighborhood. And now kids from up north are going. We started working with kids with special needs that are suffering the most in Beersheba and in Mitzpe Ramon. And the last thing that I will say, that less than an hour ago, I came back from the Dead Sea, where one of the largest number of evacuees was sent to stay there. Around 9,000 people from that area. And I can share with you that almost 2 years ago, I was standing on the border with Ukraine and Poland. And I was volunteering in Ukraine. And some of the scenes that I saw there on the faces of the people, and the way that the people are living, although it's the Dead Sea, although there are hotels there, were reminding me a lot of what happened there. I went in the first day. This is my second day being there. I went to the David Hotel, where Kibbutz Be'eri is staying. And I can share with you that the people there are kind of dead people walking, kids and adults. And to see so many good people and so many good friends that were living there, that what they faced are unimaginable events. And I served many years in the IDF, and I was in very, let's say, harsh situation. But something like that, I will never imagine in my life that can happen. And what we are doing in the Dead Sea today, it's thanks to JNF. We got a request from the Eshkol region for our friend Michal Uziyahu and others. They said that the only thing that they think that can happen there, and what the kids are needed, is stability, and to build kind of a routine, and to take them outdoors. So we sent on Sunday, yesterday, a group of 4 guys that are sleeping there in a tent, because that's not a problem for someone that grew up in our organization. And each morning they're going to one of the hotels and just doing Green Horizons groups and Green Horizons activity, taking the kids outdoors for 2 to 3 hours and just building their confidence in life and confidence in the world. Because what they faced, it's evil. And they need to build that confidence back. And that's what we're trying to do. And thanks to JNF, we are able to do it in the Dead Sea. And hopefully we'll get in a few days to Eilat and then to Ramat Negev and then to every place that evacuees need us. We will be there for those kids and youth that I think suffer the most. And last, and I will say it from a personal perspective, before I will finish. I can tell you that if I can ask any one of you one thing, it's, I saw many things that are written all over the world that I saw it. No, your Israeli friends are not okay. That's the truth. And any of you that have friends in Israel, reach out to them. Say, are they okay? Tell them that you are with them. I get messages and phone by hundreds every day, and that's what helps us. And I know most of you are doing it, and that's what's strengthened us, that we have people around the world that are supporting us and are with us in, I think, the most difficult hour of Israel. And for that, I can thank all of you, and I hope you continue supporting, because I have to tell you, the JNF was the first to help the people, the first organization, much before the government, much before any other organization came to help. And we need it now, because we are not in a place, and not in the same Israel, and not in the same world that we were living before October 7th. So thank you, everyone, and I hope to see you in better circumstances, and that we'll be able to go back and smile and be with each other. So thank you.
So, you have the wishes of the hundreds of thousands of JNF donors. We like to call them partners, because we're all partners in Israel. We obviously like the Edo that smiles, and the Edo that talks about the NFL. And we want that Edo back as soon as we can get that Edo. In the meantime, hopefully we'll see you in Denver, November 30th to December 2nd for our conference. We pray that things will allow you to be there with us. So keep up the great work. We were there with you before, we're there with you now, and we will be with you forever. So thanks so much, Edo. Finally, we'll hear from Ruby Russell on our Alexander-Muss High School in Israel campus at Hoda Sharon. Ruby is the team leader for the Madrichim, the counselors division of our high school. Ruby's going to update us on the status of the evacuees that we were able to house in our dormitories. Ruby, over to you.
Thank you. Shalom lekulam. I'm very grateful to be able to close us out on a bit more of an uplifting note and continue the theme of what Ido spoke about, of what does supporting those who have been evacuated from some of the most affected areas of Israel, what does that work look like? So for a slight bit of context, here on the JNF's Alexander-Muss High School in Israel campus, when this war began, we were able to very smoothly and safely send all of our students back to their families in the United States with the help of the whole JNF and AMHSI staff. That was our first real blessing. And our second blessing was that we were able to open up our campus to many families that had to evacuate their homes, which is a very, very saddening circumstance. However, there are so many beautiful moments of light that I want to share with you all from what that has brought to our campus. The first thing that I need to say is that we cannot take for granted that we have these beautiful, comfortable, and relatively safe facilities here in the center of Israel on our campus. And that is the first blessing that we can open our doors to. Right now, we have over 50 people staying with us of all ages. And what shifts that of simply from being a safe space to a really warm and healing environment is the people. I first do want to lift up Orit Omer and Menashe Mor, who have been really spearheading logistically this whole operation to make this space work. And then I want to lift up the Madrichim, who are the people on the ground who, with the good of their hearts, have warmed this space, as I said. So in a regular routine here at our school, I have the privilege of guiding our Madrichim, our counselors, the 20 to 25-year-old Israelis who come and support our students through their entire learning experience, all their trips and their dorm life. And when we sent all the students home, we told them, do whatever you need to do during this time. Many drafted into reserves, and we thank them deeply for their service. Many realized that it was the most important thing for them to be beside their families during this time. And a handful volunteered out of the goodness of their heart to stay on campus, living here and supporting each of our guests. So those Madrichim, I want to give them a shout out, lift them up. We have Omer Shemer here, Ofri Bashar, Alisheva Inbar, Sarit Nagar, and Agam Lubin. And all of these Madrichim have done magic for these families. I want to highlight a few of the things. First and foremost, just on a very human level, being there for these people, getting to know each and every one of them, whether they are 3 years old or 80-year-olds, knowing what they miss, knowing what has been making them cry, knowing what they experience, what brings them joy, what lifts them up, what's their favorite food, what can we bring them, getting to know them as human beings, being here to listen to their stories and hold the space for them. In that way, they've really been frontline trauma workers. And I think that I really need to accent the power of their presence here, just as role models for the students and people that the adults can trust with their children as well. The next aspect that I want to highlight of their work is the programming that they have been creating. It's been beautiful to see the outpouring of support from our local community in Hod HaSharon and Ra'anana, many families, professionals that has been offering to bring their skills, expertise, activities, food, all sorts of things. And it's been the Madrichim that have been doing most of the coordinating to bring these activities and the support. So they've built out a wonderful, multifaceted schedule where every single day, these families have activities to do that are supporting them, giving them purpose, giving them even joy, and giving them ways to process what they've been through. I'll give you a few examples. Even today, I joined an activity where they brought in a petting zoo for the children so that they could not only feel that they are cared for, but see their own power in caring for others, caring for animals. On the same note, we've had therapeutic dogs come in to help them calm down, relax, and process their emotions. We've had arts and crafts lessons for the kids where they can draw and get some of the images that are in their head out onto paper and express them. We not only want to work through their mental health, but also their physical health. So the Madrichim have coordinated many physical activities. There's something for everyone. There's soccer, there's yoga, there's Pilates, to keep them moving and active and engaged through this really, really, really difficult time. And the last note that I want to highlight has to do with our bomb shelter, which unfortunately has become a very central location on our campus in the last couple of weeks. But instead of keeping it as this place,
Let's see if we can, Ruby, I don't know if you can hear us, but there's a little bit of a problem maybe with your connection. We're starting to lose your audio.
If I move closer, does it help? Are you able to
Yeah, that's
hear?
good right now. That's better.
Okay. Excellent. So I'll just close out by explaining they've been able to flip our bomb shelter into a playroom, into a place of joy. And the children are able to laugh and play there. And in the down moments, the free moments, the Madrichim will even come in and just lift up these children and sit with the parents and hear their stories. And it has become a beautiful, beautiful refuge thanks to these workers. So I'm grateful to see this, and it's very heartwarming, and I want to appreciate everyone who's taken a part of it. So thank you all for listening and for supporting.
So Ruby, it's very uplifting to listen to you. Very different than many of our speakers, but we really needed that. And what you and your team are doing is just unbelievable. So it's just another sign of what JNF at Alexander Muss High School in Israel does in the good times and in the tough times. So we'll ask you maybe to join us again as we continue these Zooms, so more and more people can hear your story. So thanks, Ruby. And tomorrow we will be back with a feature on the situation on college campuses. We will hear from Jacob Bain, the CEO of the Israel on Campus Coalition, funded by the JNF-USA Baruchin Center. We will also hear from non-Jewish university professors and student leaders who traveled to Israel with JNF-USA. They will share what they are experiencing on their campuses. On Wednesday, we'll welcome former Ambassador to the United States, Michael Oren, and Thursday, we'll hear from Avi Meir, Editor-in-Chief of the Jerusalem Post. It's crucial for us to remain informed and connected to our family in Israel during this difficult time. JNF-USA is your voice in Israel, and right now, they need to hear your voice. Share what you're learning on these calls. Invite others to join our briefings. Stay updated. We will do this every day except for Saturday. And as Rick Krosnick, our Chief Development Officer, said a few days ago, we must use the other tool we have, which is our checkbook. So show your unwavering support for the land and people of Israel. Start a peer-to-peer fundraising page. Give to our resilience campaign. With our $1 million match, we urge you to support our critical relief efforts at jnf.org/support Israel. Every dollar goes directly to those people and areas that are in greatest need. With that, we will sign off, reminding you we'll see you tomorrow at 12 p.m. Eastern, 9 a.m. Pacific. Thank you for joining us. Am Yisrael Chai.